Hello, welcome to Unnecessary Roughness, Barstool's college football podcast, where we talk to you about all the teams and programs that are doing it the right way, and we'll talk about some other programs as well. Now, it is time for Kayce and Big Ev to tell you about the best drink in the world, High Noon Hard Seltzer.
High Noon Hard Seltzer. Big Ev, I saw that they're doing like a summer thing where they're going around to different like summer Fridays, and Sydney Wells was the first one. Are you involved in that with the High Noon stuff?
I am involved. I'm going down to Charleston, I believe in 2 weeks. Very, very excited about that. Going to play some golf. Going to do a bunch of great activities with High Noon. Anything with High Noon is special, but very
Yeah,
excited.
no, this is High Noon is obviously like the drink of choice for most of Barstool as it is, but like a couple summers ago when we did the High Noon house on the Jersey Shore, we had like a High Noon boat. Like they go all out. So when I saw that you guys were all doing that, I realized like, you know what? I might not be a part of it because I'm just like a whole ass mom now, but I can sit and watch all of these and drink the High Noon iced tea because I can't get enough of the iced tea. Like I know the vodka will always have my heart. Of course, there's the tequila for the tequila drinkers, but these teas, they hit different.
The peach High Noon iced tea is
Oh,
it's just divine. Absolutely divine.
it is. So college football season's on its way. It's August. HighNoonSpirits.com. You know where to find it. I guess people are now trying to buy like the Dave bobbleheads in the liquor stores. If you know where to get a Dave bobblehead or a Dave cutout, you know where to get High Noon. HighNoonSpirits.com. Brandon Walker. It is not only almost college football season, which is coming up quick. It's now officially the start of 2 episodes a week, which is exciting.
Yep. Monday and Thursday, I believe, is what we're recording this week. So two a week for August, and then we go 3 a week for the season, and we're almost here. And today starts our conference previews. And I did say, in recent years or the last 5 years, we've always started the same way. It's conference previews. So alphabetically, ACC is first, and then Big 12. Well, ACC is boring. All right, it just is. Let's be honest. Let's be honest with each other. Guess what? Clemson, Florida State, they're going to be really good. Miami could be good. We'll get to the ACC. I promise you we'll do that. We'll get to the Big 12 too. But why just sit here with our dick in our hands? Let's fucking dive in. We're diving in, and our first conference is one of the two that really fucking matter, and it's the Big 10. The Big 10 with the new teams coming in, the 4 teams from the West Coast. So we're going to jump into the Big 10 today. We'll do our previews. Now, that times up really well for one of the news items this week. But we'll talk about that. We got a little bit of other news, but we'll be doing our conference preview of the Big 10 at the back half of the show. Really, probably the back 75% of this show.
Yeah. Brandon, whenever Liam and I were texting about like, cause he was, he's very organized, as I'm sure you know, like Liam is like the most organized human ever. And he's like trying to get everything together for the show. And he said, do you guys normally do them alphabetically every year? And I was like, I think that we do. And I'm actually surprised that Brandon hasn't stopped that before this year. Like in my head, I was thinking about it. I was like, how has he allowed us to just do the ACC first every single year? That shocks me.
Yeah. I finally just said, well, it was last night, and I was like, well, I guess I'll look at the ACC, and I just
I didn't
want to. I don't want to look at the ACC. I want to look at the Big 10.
And Ev said, fuck it, let's ball. And I was like, all right.
Okay, we ball. Big 10. Yeah. Start with the best first. Why not?
So guess what? First two episode week, we're going Big 10 today and SEC on Thursday. Fuck it.
Fuck yeah.
A new era.
They want. That's what they want. They want the Big 10. They want the SEC. We give it to you.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do Big 10 today. Now, that does dovetail nicely with what's in the news right now as far as college football goes. Now, there was a time in our past when on this show, I would have to carry the Michigan hate segments. I would have to be the guy to step up and say, you know, what I'm seeing out there is wrong. But now I'm in a situation where I'm just, due to a bet I made, and I'm a man of my word, I will have to tap dance around that. But guess what? I'm not going to hand the ball to Southern Michigan fan Jack McGuire. I'm not going to hand it to him, who's all of a sudden J.J. McCarthy's biggest fucking fan. I'm not going to hand it to Michigan sympathizer Kayce Smith, and I'm not going to. Katie didn't give a shit about any of it, and she loved football, but she didn't really take a hardline stance on Michigan. But guess what I have? We have a Buckeye on the show now, so I don't have to worry about it. That's right. Get in there. Brandon. It's about time. It's about time to go earn your fucking paycheck, Big F. All right.
Before you do this, and I know how happy you are, I need you to remind the people that are listening, because there are probably a lot of either new listeners or listeners that forget what your blood oath was last year. Go ahead and tell everybody what your blood oath is.
So Michigan was going to the national title, and I was certain they were not going to win the national title, even though there was evidence that they were doing certain things. I was certain they were not going to win. So I told Dave Portnoy they're not going to win. He said, "Well, if they win, you can never talk about them cheating again." All right, that's fine. So I made the blood oath, and I can't do it now. I'm not going to talk about any cheating, I don't think, but I will talk about allegations this week that have been made. It's all news to me. I'm not saying it. The NCAA is saying it. And right now, the NCAA has kind of leaked some information that there's a notice of allegations coming. There's word that there's 52 some odd deleted texts between Sherrone Moore and Connor Stallions. There's evidence that Connor Stallions was in fact the guy on the sidelines at Central Michigan. There's all sorts of evidence about Michigan last year and their run to a national title. Now, I will say this. I have 2 points, and I'm going to give it to Big Ev and Kayce, and I'm going to get out of the way. My 2 points are this. I have 3 points. Number one is, if the NCAA vacates this national title, I don't know how much that's going to matter, because you can't take away the feeling of a one national title. My thing is, the NCAA is going to use this vacating wins as a way to punish them, but ultimately, the NCAA knew last year when this was happening. They had proof last year. So if they really wanted to hurt Michigan, they would have stopped them from playing in the playoff and not allowed them to win the national title. So going back and fixing it, the NCAA is a little bit toothless, and I'm not sure justice will actually come to Michigan if, in fact, they cheated. I don't know if they cheated. Secondly, no coach in the history of the world has been set up to fail and set up as the scapegoat more than what Jim Harbaugh has done to Sherrone Moore. Sherrone Moore being the lead guy talking to Connor Stallions, and everybody for Michigan who won the national title got the fuck out of town, and they left Sherrone Moore there to deal with it, and it's going to derail his career right from the start. He's going to be finished as soon as this stuff really fires up. And number 3, the person I blame the most for all of this is Kirby Smart. Because Kirby Smart showed up to Atlanta last year scared of Nick Saban and scared of Alabama, and Georgia played a pussified-ass football game instead of beating a pretty average Alabama team. That was not a good Alabama team for their standards. They let Alabama win, which meant an average Alabama got to represent the SEC in the college football playoff and lose to Michigan, where Georgia would have fucking killed himself. Kirby Smart wasn't a pussy. This would have all never happened. Kirby Smart, blood is on your hands. The NCAA shouldn't have to do this. Kirby Smart, you showed up to Atlanta and rolled over for your boss one last fucking time, and this all happened. Now, Big Ev, Michigan is in the crosshairs. What do you make of it?
So I'll address your points in order. 1, the vacating the championship. I don't think they should do it. I don't think they will do it. I'm just very against that, like, in general. As a blanket statement, I'm against it. Kind of what Brandon said, it means nothing. The Louisville 2013 one in basketball, literally no one cares. Everyone remembers they're the national champions. So I'll get in front of that very clearly. I don't think they should do it. I don't think they will do it. So to me, I haven't even really, like, addressed that part of my brain, because I just think there's no way they actually vacate a national title, especially with a team that is currently the reigning champions. 2, I'm very glad you said the Sherrone Moore thing, because I think there is no – it is crazy to me the way Jim Harbaugh is kind of just floated his way out of here. Like, he served his little suspension in the regular season. I get it. Whatever. But what he knew this was going to happen all along. I said halfway through the season, win or lose, he's gone. I said that all your college football show. I was laughed at the whole year. I said middle of the season, he will be gone no matter if they win or lose. He knew this was going to happen. And the fact that this all started with, cheeseburger. He's getting like pinned, like he's like, it's like some crazy witch hunt for the NCAA. Everything that, like, they made this out to be, even the Connor Stallions thing from the beginning, when Jim Harbaugh was asked about it, he acted like, I didn't know anything about it. Like, Connor Stallions was some GA just acting on his own with his manifesto. This man was personally texting the offensive coordinator and the co-head coach of the football team. You think they didn't know? They all knew. They all knew, and they were very involved in it from day one. They knew exactly what's happening. And to me, it's really crazy that they're doing the Netflix thing now. They're not letting this thing breathe. They're putting this thing out less than a year from when it actually happened. It's fucking crazy. I don't like what are the, like you said it well. They're going to use Sherrone Moore as the scapegoat. He's going to be the one that gets suspended. And that's all that's really going to happen, because Harbaugh left. You can't do anything to him now. He's gone. they can't really, to me, they can't really do anything about it that really makes a difference. Um, other than suspending their current head coach Sherrone Moore. But it's been a load of shit from day one. Jim Harbaugh doesn't get enough credit for how full of shit he is because milk and steak, and we have everyone at this company just jerks him off all day long. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy. Like he's this amazing person and this and that. He's a piece of shit. He's full of shit. He's a fucking cheater. But there's nothing's gonna be done about it, and it's a damn shame.
No, nothing will be done about it. There's nothing the NCAA can do that can rise to the level of Michigan winning a national title. Like if Michigan winning a national title is here, the NCAA is gonna maybe they want to hit him here. They end up going to hit him here. They're never going to get up here. So like, there's nothing the NCAA can really do because if they wanted to have some teeth, they would have done it in the season last year. They didn't. So once that happened, Michigan goes and wins it. And I think people should have. When Jim Harbaugh got Michigan finally to the level of winning a national title after working and working and working and working and working, he finally gets them to be the national champion, and then he just pieces out. I mean, that'll tell you what he believed about the whole situation. Anyway, Kayce, your turn.
No, well, I will say it's very commendable, Evan. I'm not even being a little bit sarcastic that you said that about the vacating wins, because I feel like, and this is obviously an Ohio State Michigan thing right now, but let's take any rival in any sport, but especially in college football. If your rival, your bitter rival, gets caught allegedly doing what Michigan is being allegedly doing or has been doing, like a lot of fans are going to jump on that. Like I know I would, I know Brandon would, I know Liam would. Like it would be very easy to say like, haha, take it away. In reality, and I mean, you did this when we did our draft last week, like Reggie Bush's Heisman got taken away for quote cheating. Well, no, he always won that Heisman. That was always his Heisman. So that's very commendable of you. I have a question for you though, and this is an honest question, because I mean, obviously, like Brandon said, I've stood up for Michigan a lot. I think if you can steal signs and you're in the stands, now the Central Michigan thing, if that was really him,
No.
Yeah, like come on. What
that was
I tweeted about yesterday, they'd be like, "Oh, we can like NCAA investigators have came to the conclusion that it was him." It took you a year to realize the 99 pictures of him on the sideline were him. If you just have two working eyeballs, it was him. Like they act like they had some groundbreaking discovery.
I said this, it's like whenever the Astros got caught stealing signs and stealing pitches, and it was like, well, if they had buzzers under their uniform, that's one thing. If they can just steal the signs because the pitcher's giving them away, then that's fine. So like, that's the way I feel about it. It's like everyone in college football is cheating, by the way. We've all said that. We know our schools are doing it. Everyone is doing it. Michigan was just doing it better. But Ev, I have a real question for you. Let's say if Ohio State like still lost to Michigan last year, but Michigan did not win the national title, would people care near as much this week as they do right now? Because I'm seeing like Ohio State, these fans like losing their fucking minds. Like you're being irrational and like, oh my God, strip everything. They never won. And it's like, they're acting that way because Michigan won the national title. If Michigan hadn't won, they might like point out and be like, well, we could have beat them, but it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
So the national title thing,
Can I step in?
Go ahead.
Brandon.
Kayce, they won the national title. Yeah, they won the national title. So yeah, if they didn't win the national title, there wouldn't be anything to strip.
Yes.
But they wouldn't have made near as big of a deal about the allegations in general. That was the whole thing. I mean, even on this very podcast last year, when Jim Harbaugh got suspended again, and it was like, okay, if they lose to Penn State, we can say, haha, see, they've been cheating. If they lose to Ohio State, be like, haha, see, they were caught allegedly in air quotes before the Penn State game. Then they won. And then they won again, and then they won again, and then they won the national title. And now it's like, well, I mean, hey, they were still cheating the whole time. And it's like, well, if they were cheating the whole time and then they got caught and they weren't doing it anymore, then wouldn't they have lost? Like that to me is what doesn't make as much sense about it. It's like, when were they cheating? Before or after?
I think their timing was very fortunate. I think their timing was incredibly fortunate in the sense that they basically caught their best team as it was kind of unfolding. I'm saying where like they have all the veteran guys this year. They obviously had an incredibly talented team. They had a lot of high draft picks, this and that. I think the timing was fortunate because even I've had some conversations with some people at TCU off the record. I want just that basically it was kind of like it was starting to get known around that playoff game, and that they basically got dummied into losing that game by thinking they had the signs and they didn't. And they lost to a very, in my opinion, I think most people's opinion, a very clearly inferior team that they lost to in that game, that they were skating by a lot of the season, maybe the one prior to, with knowing signs, like knowing exactly what plays coming at what time, this and that. Then they got made look like fools on national stage in that TCU playoff game. They came back the next year. They had the best team they've had by far. That, like, because on the field, I have, like, that season, I have no, we, in my opinion, like, we lost fair and square in that Michigan game. It at the game, like, at Michigan last year in Ann Arbor. But yeah, they definitely, like, I think to say like they weren't, like, when were they cheating, were they not? I think it was very clear they were cheating prior to basically getting caught. They got caught. I'm sure they had, or I think what happened was, I think some teams by the end of, I guess, 2022 season, they caught on to what was happening. And then 2023, I give it, like, they won it. But yeah, like, if they hadn't won the national title, people obviously wouldn't, like Brandon said, there would be nothing to strip. Like, there'd be like no one would have cared if they stripped, like, the Big Ten title or anything like that. I don't think Ohio State fans would be saying
That's why I was asking you, because I was just wondering from, like, a standpoint of just like a rival being alleged. Like, last year in the middle of the season, it was by far the biggest story of the middle of the season last year, let alone now going into the next one. And if it was such a big deal, the NCAA should have stepped in last year, and they didn't. So now it's like, well, why are we making such a big deal about it?
Well, I think that's the problem with college football. There's so much turnover that, like, the people, and you, like we said, Jim Harbaugh leaving. So the people that, like, committed the crimes aren't the ones that get penalized. We've seen it happen time and time again in college sports.
That's fair.
And I think
that's why I asked
kind
the
of what's
question.
happening to them now. Where Sherrone Moore was definitely directly involved. So him having punishment, I think, is actually someone who deserves it. But Jim Harbaugh, was the most deserving of all the punishment. And he was able to get away with his little 3-game suspension where he was able to coach the team all week and just not coach the actual game. The only tough game was the Ohio State game, obviously. But no, I mean, the whole thing's fucking. It just pisses me off. The whole thing, the timing of it, everything, the way it unfolded, the way they're acting now. Like, oh, now we know all this information that I feel like everyone knew last year.
And if I were you, I would feel the exact same way, by the way. That's why I'm asking the question. But it's like, to me, it's like, so if they're not going to vacate the win, which I don't think they should either, then what are they going to do? Like, what moving forward?
I don't know that I feel they shouldn't vacate the win. If they vacate the win, my thing with vacating the wins is it's a punishment that's not really a punishment. Like, okay, they vacated the win. Like, you can't undo people's memories. You can't undo the feeling Michigan fans had. They will always have that national title, whether it's on paper or not. So vacating wins is kind of just a toothless ass punishment.
Yes.
Right. So what do they do?
They'll vacate the wins probably. But
you really think so?
I mean, maybe they'll go after Sherrone Moore. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they just say Connor Stallions can never work in football again. But I don't even know if he wants to. Like, he's doing and it depends on what's on his Netflix special. Like, he's participating in a Netflix thing. Is he just going to come out and say that stuff last year? That was me. Is he going to do that, or is he just going to? I think he'll probably just go with the thing. You know what? You guys call us cheaters or whatever. Everybody's doing it. Like, that's probably his best. That's probably their best defense.
But don't they have the manifesto?
I don't fucking know. The manifesto feels like that might have been made up. Like, I don't know.
Stallions in the doc says, if I'm a bad guy, then everyone in football is a bad guy. And that's like cool.
Right,
sick.
Anyway, we'll see where it goes. Now, here's my concern. If I think Michigan fans will act like they don't have any concerns or whatever. At what point will it affect because they play again this year? Like, that didn't end the program. That didn't end everything. They play again this year, and they will play Ohio State. They'll play all these teams. Will this drag out? They did a remarkable job last year when it dragged out, not letting it affect them. But can you do that forever? Will it drag out again? Will it affect games? Will it affect their preparation? Will Sherrone Moore get suspended? Like, now you're talking about a new season, and the season starts in a month, and Michigan's right back in the news with this stuff.
Well, and not only could they, I mean, they obviously have to play their schedule, but they could play Ohio State. Like, I mean, theoretically, because it's divisionless, they could technically play them 3 different times. It's not going to happen, but they could. They could play them in the regular season, in the conference championship, and if they meet again in the playoffs. So, I mean, you're absolutely right that it could be crazy. I just think that, I mean, we all know the NCAA is the worst. Like, they're the absolute worst, and everybody's going to talk about it, but nothing is going to actually happen that will actually matter unless they do like a postseason ban moving forward. But that wouldn't make any sense because they already won the national title. So to me, it's just Like, okay, NCAA, like, what are you going to do now? Like, it's not going to change the outcome of it.
Yeah, Big Ev,
Also, I
last
would love a
words.
Connor Stallions. Like, I personally would love somebody to care that much about my football program to cheat like that.
Those people exist in every program, I'm sure.
Not UCLA. I would love to have someone care that much to beat LA traffic and put butts in seats at the Rose Bowl. That'd be nice.
Happy birthday, Blutman, by the way. Happy birthday.
Happy
Blutman.
birthday.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to transition to another coach and another issue. I think we went, whatever. To me, this Michigan story is interesting for right now, but it's really remarkably interesting for down the road. Well, it's kind of like a preview now. Like, all right, NCAA claims they're going to do something. We'll see what it is eventually. We'll move on to another coach right now, but Kayce, first, tell us about somebody.
I'm going to tell us about Nutrafol because, again, we love good hair on this podcast. It's Liam's birthday. Liam's got phenomenal hair, and we are all big fans of Nutrafol. Nutrafol, as we've been talking about for a long time, they have all different types of products for different types of hair situations, skin types, the whole thing. I use the postpartum because postpartum is absolutely hellacious on your hair, but Nutrafol in general is good because it's warm weather, so you're wearing a lot more hats, you're grilling up some burgers. The hat actually does affect your hair, believe it or not, guys. So I know you wear a hat to cover up your hair sometimes. It's actually not helping it all the time. So whether you're consistently wearing that or you just want healthier hair, Nutrafol is that product. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand with over 1 million people seeing thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding. And less shedding is a big deal, especially as you get older. So it's a great routine. And Brandon, you know how when you got good hair, you've got great hair, Brandon. You want to keep it looking great. You want to keep it looking shiny and sleek. And Nutrafol does it just with just a little all body vitamin, Brandon. Don't you just love it?
Yeah, no, I just want you to speak about my good hair a little bit more.
Brandon, your hair is so fluffy and so luxurious. And I mean, when I picture when you walk by the slow motion wind, just thanks to Nutrafol.
By the way, I did that and it didn't move at all. Just
it's because you put
like
so much product in it.
It's like my hair is stuck to my head.
Yeah, you put a lot of product in it, but it's so thick because of Nutrafol that's why it does that. So take your first step towards achieving your hair growth goals. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and use promo code UR. Find out why 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. That's Nutrafol.com/men, Nutrafol.com/men, promo code UR. That's promo code UR.
Pick six. It's right on the desk. Pick six. Sorry.
Who dare interrupt us?
That was Cody. I had him bring in my Pick Six Previews magazine.
Ooh,
just for a guide as we're talking about the Big Ten teams. I wanted to go team by team a little bit.
Mine came in today, Brad. He sent me one. Shout out Pick Six Previews.
Yeah, Brett Ciancia or Sancia. I don't know how to say his last name, but Cianci.
He's a great guy. He's sending him to all of us.
I think Pick Six is the best. You got your Phil Steels, you got your Athlons, you got all that. Athlon and Lindy's just get them out very quickly. They don't really matter. Phil Steele is a lot of people love him. To me, it's
a lot of old information.
The writing's bad. The information's all old. And this guy, Brett, with Pick Six Previews, has the best magazine in the college football business.
And maybe this is a nerd thing. I don't know. I love that it's like the binder, like the that makes it so much easier. It's just so much better. I don't know. I am so excited to dive into it.
I'm looking forward to reading it. I
had it here the whole time.
I dipped into the college football preview magazine game last year and helped out with making one. Very lengthy process, very tiring process, put a lot of work into it. So blood, sweat, and tears when you actually care about it and care about the sport. So
I had it the whole time, Cody. I apologize. I'm sorry. Cody, you did exactly what I asked you to do, which is go get my preview magazine. I'm a piece of shit. Yeah, I got it.
Wait, who was that?
It's I think he started today, Cody.
Oh, I was thinking you were talking about Cody Lanza this whole time. And I was like, why is he
in New York? That would have been really mean if I asked for Cody Lanza to fly out here to get my magazine.
Yeah, I don't know who that was that Brandon was talking about.
No, I don't either, but he said his name was Cody. Anyway, one more team I'd like to talk about before we get to the Big Ten, the Big Ten preview, and whatnot. So, Colorado went 4-8 last year. Colorado hired Deion Sanders the year before, or before last season. A lot of pomp, a lot of circumstance, a lot of early hype, and then 4-8. And this year, they've had a lot of transfer portal in and out. They've had a lot of, they've been in the news a little bit. Yesterday on Twitter, and I can't remember exactly who reported it, but it was reported that inside of Deion Sanders' Colorado program is a mess. And one of the quotes in there was, it's like Grand Theft Auto over there, which is, that's quite the statement. There were reports and anecdotes about Cormani McLean, the former 5-star cornerback, getting bullied by Shiloh Sanders and getting bullied by other teammates. There was Jordan Seaton? Am I saying
Yeah.
Jordan Seaton, also a former 5-star, was made to physically fight an upperclassman for his spot or something in the locker room. And there's all sort of there's gambling debts mentioned in this story. Now, this is a story reported by someone else that hit Twitter yesterday. I read it, and to me, I can believe there's some issues inside Colorado's program. I assume there's issues inside every 4-8 program in the country, and every program that takes a lot of transfers. I think there's going to be naturally issues. Some of the reporting in this seemed a little. It was kind of poorly written. Some of the stories seemed awful rumory, right? It seemed very, very rumory. So I'm not going to give a whole lot of credence to the individual stories here. I'm just telling you these are out there, and as we go into year 2 of Deion Sanders at Colorado, it certainly doesn't seem like it seems if there's no fire, there's at least a lot of smoke, Kayce. A lot of smoke that things aren't right there.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of questions, but I mean, when you told me to read this and like you just mentioned it, it's like real life Grand Theft Auto. That is so ridiculous. Like I have watched people play Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, that's Georgia.
You can literally pick up a weapon on the street and just kill as many people as you want. You can like have sex with strippers. Like that's clearly not going on at Colorado. Like that's just so over. I mean, Grand Theft Auto.
If there's strippers there, people are fucking them.
Well, ask Hugh Freeze. He might give you the inside scoop. But Brandon,
those are hookers.
I will say this as a parent now, and maybe this makes me lame, but I cannot believe Grand Theft Auto is a real game that people can play. Like it to me is like so absurd and so ridiculous that when I read that, like I had to laugh out loud. Like I understand there's probably issues going on and there's probably a lot of egos that are, I mean, obviously like it went viral this week that Colorado has like their social media handles on the back of their jersey. That's fine. To say a program that's currently intact and the coach is not in trouble for anything, it's like Grand Theft Auto. It just immediately to me like makes me roll my eyes and be like, okay, this is somebody with a vendetta. That's the way it feels. Now, am I saying it's perfect over there? Absolutely not. There's definitely something going on that's making people unhappy in the locker room. Maybe it's Shador being able to do whatever the hell he wants. I don't know. But I can guarantee with a lot of my being, it's not Grand Theft Auto.
There's different stages and levels to Grand Theft Auto.
Are there?
Also, let's just Grand Theft Auto is awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's put out there one. Grand Theft Auto is awesome. And also, too, just want to make a point. Miami in their documentary talks about it. Florida and the Swamp Kings, even though it's a fuck feast, they talk about it. They made those motherfuckers fist fight and they won national titles. Just gonna say that. I'm not gonna take a stance on making them fight or not. I'm just gonna state fact. They both said they used to make them throw hands in the locker room, and both those teams won national titles. That's all I'm saying.
There's a lot of stories that come out in college football. I'll use Northwestern for an example. Remember last year, Fitzgerald gets run out of town because of hazing in the locker room, and a lot of what came out about that hazing probably happens all over the country. I'm not saying hazing is good. I'm not saying that. I'm saying probably happens all over the country. Now, if you're telling me two teammates got in a fist fight in the locker room, I don't, maybe you can say they made them or whatever, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you teammates getting fist fights in the locker room at every team in the country. Every school in the country is going to have a fist fight in the locker room. That's just a fact. Now, was it coming from the higher ups, the coaches? I don't know. Whatever. That is, these things do add up. The number one thing here is the number one thing. If Deion Sanders wins 8 games this year, none of these issues really matter. If Deion Sanders goes 4-8 again, these issues are gigantic and huge and probably are going to lead to him not being in Colorado anymore. Because you can have issues and win 9 games. You can't have issues and win 4, and that's the biggest problem for Colorado right now. Is everything that happened off the field as long as it turns into success on the field, everything's good. It didn't.
But
Completely agree.
What if they go 4-8 again? But similar situation last year where TV ratings through the roof, home games are packed out, season tickets sold out, everything. I don't think he's getting fired. Does he leave on his own accord? Maybe.
Okay, well here's something you got to think about with that. Say they go 4-8 again. Well, Dion is the coach, and the next year you're facing no Shador,
Yeah.
no Shiloh, no Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
You're going to try to run it back and you've lost all your good players. And if he goes 4-8. If he goes 4-8 twice, that means he didn't succeed in bringing in enough transfers to win the first 2 times. So how would he do it without the 3 best players on the team, or 3 of the best players on the team? It would be hard to imagine. And I don't know the man. I've met him in passing. Is he going to want to coach a 4-8 football team without Shador there to be the quarterback? I don't know the answer to that question.
I mean, he said that he'll be there, that he's not following, his sons to the NFL. The thing is, and we talked about this when all this stuff started popping off when Shador was going against guys on Twitter, like last year, the hype, and obviously, not just me, a lot of people that know him bought into it. But then throughout this offseason, it's just like, okay, we get it. Everything can be loud. Everything can be flashy. I have no problem with any of that. The second that the program still looks like it's as bad as it was last year, or even a little bit better, because they did win 1 game the year before, that's when people are going to be allowed to start talking shit. Because that was like the whole thing. It's like when they were winning games early in the season last year, it was like, okay, like maybe we've got something here. And then now all the offseason stuff, like you said, I don't know. I don't think that it's in disarray. I don't think that, first of all, and maybe this is just me being naive, I don't think that Dion's allowing gambling rings to go on and he knows about it. He wouldn't even talk about the spread on the Pro Football Show. Like that was something that he did. With that being said, a lot of things go on in locker rooms that I feel like people would be surprised about. If they start losing again and they're still acting this way, people have every right to talk shit about it. We'll see what happens in a new conference.
Yep. Blutman, you got anything to add on Dion in Colorado?
Get ready for North Dakota State, August 29th. That's why
Blutman cannot wait for this game.
I can't wait for that game. Can't wait for South Dakota State, Oklahoma State. Can't wait to talk about the Big Ten in a few minutes. I'm very excited. I have over 2,000 words of notes on the Big Ten that I took last night.
Really?
Yeah.
2,000 words, huh?
Yep.
Did you type it out?
Yep.
Okay. I'm like a writer still, so I'm like.
My writing is so
bad. That notepad was filled.
Yeah, I got lots of notes.
It was filled.
All
right. Well, you guys ready to dive into the Big Ten?
Very much so.
Yes.
Kayce, let's knock out another one, and then we'll dive into the Big Ten.
Well, I was going to say, the Big Ten this year, Brandon, 18 teams, coast to coast, and, a lot of people like taking road trips. If you're going to drive coast to coast, you want to be comfortable in a car, and our friends at cars.com, Brandon, I bet you they could find you a good coast to coast vehicle to visit all the Big Ten schools.
Yeah, you're going to want good gas mileage, but you're going to want big and comfortable, and maybe a nice SUV, a nice size SUV, 7-seater, room for the family, or a storage rack to put stuff up on the top. That's where you're going from tailgate to tailgate. You're going to find that on cars.com. You can click all those buttons I just said. Click that, click that, click that. Cars.com is going to spit out some options. You're going to see every fact about your car. You're going to be able to whittle down and come to or find the exact car for your family, for your needs, for who you are. Cars.com.
Yeah, we also know that if you have, cars.com is really good at tracking the value of your current car. So if you want to trade your car in to potentially get a new car for this trip, or you just want to see what the value is, go to cars.com. You can always track your car's value. And like I said, and I personally love it, I can do it all from wherever I am, my living room, my kitchen. I don't have to go on the lot and check everything out. You can just select. Boom, you're driving coast to coast with 18 teams in the Big Ten, Brandon. 18 teams.
Yeah.
18, cars.com.
All right, here we go.
18 teams.
We're going to get to our categories in a minute, because I want to just guide y'all through the conference with a bunch of questions that you can answer in just a second. But the categories are going to be, as we map out our previews for the Big Ten, the champion, who will be the champion, who will be in the title game, the coach of the year, the player of the year, the disappointing team, the surprise team, the worst team, and I'm introducing a new one, the wild card team. The team that can just muck everything up, or you can take wild card to mean whatever you want it to mean. Now, I'm going to ask y'all, as I just laid y'all those categories out. Again, disappointing team, surprise team, wild card, worst team, title game, player of the year, coach of the year. What was the hardest category for you to get a hold of? What was the hardest category for you to decide about something? Because I got one. Kayce, what was yours?
Mine was surprise team. I wrote 3 or 4 and scratched them all out because I kept talking myself out of it, which made me realize that I was going into my list a little bit too pessimistic. So I stopped and I said, okay, give yourself an opportunity to really think of who you would be surprised by. But that one was by far the hardest for me.
Big F?
Honestly, I think it was worst team. Worst team is the one I struggled with in this conference because I think there's a few that are in the running for sure. But it was hard for me to pin because I think all of them have like there you can sell someone on a lot of them, but I think there's a few that are like that last like 5 or 6 I think could be any one of them potentially, but some of them higher ceilings than others, but worst was definitely the one that I probably had the hardest time with.
So my hardest was also worst, but kind of for different reasons. Like, yeah, you look at the bottom of the conference and you're going to be throwing around teams like Purdue and I guess Illinois, Northwestern, maybe you throw Indiana in there. I don't know. But whoever you throw out there, even I look at the Blutman, you're going to have your chance. You don't have to make sour faces. To me, 18 teams, and I don't think there is a standout worst team. Like I don't think there's not a dirt worst terrible team in this conference. Like somebody's going to finish last, but I don't think that team's necessarily going to be an awful. This isn't like when Vanderbilt's really at the bottom of the SEC or when Northwestern a couple years ago was just god awful. This feels like a very competitive conference at the top, in the middle, and at the bottom. So Blutman, what was the hardest category for you to come up with?
Either disappointing or player of the year.
Player of the year was also tough.
Player of the year was tough because I think it's pretty chalky, and going chalk for player of the year is not always the best way to go, especially since it's an unpredictable sport at times, and injuries also exist, and this and that, and sometimes people get what's it called? Annoyed, or annoyed's not the word, but they've seen the same thing for so long. They're like, hey, maybe not. We're a little lower on this guy now because we've seen it so many times. They're just not as infatuated with it. So player of the year, I like to get creative with, and that was.
I will tell you though. And this, I don't know if this will change your mind or not, but I know Brandon and I take pride in it. We do go back through these graphics at some point after the season and decide who won each conference. So even if it's a chalky answer, it's okay if it's the right answer.
Yeah, but I can't. Chalk for player of the year, I can't do it.
That's fair.
So
today at least.
By the way, nobody ever nailed the Pac-12 more than me last year. It was unbelievable.
He remembers. But I won the most. So.
No, I think you won the Big Ten though.
No. Jack and I think, or Katie and I won. There was one where it was like 2.5. Like we both got like 2.5 or 1.5. But you did win the Pac-12 handily, sir.
All right, now there are new teams in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. It's USC, it's UCLA, it's Washington, it's Oregon. And looking at this, I find that all 4 are in 4 different spots. Like Oregon obviously is at the top of the top of the top right now. Even though they haven't really won anything as far as national significance, they're definitely in the conversation this year for top 2 or 3 or 4 teams in the country. And therefore, they're going to walk in and be right near the race for winning the Big Ten. USC, I would put under Oregon and under Ohio State and under a couple other teams. But USC, to me, is kind of boom or bust. Like there's talent there, and they've got certainly coaching talent. I know Lincoln Riley's good, but something has been missing for them. Now we move on to Washington. Now Washington is a different story entirely. They are coming off a miraculous year, incredible year, play for a national title, and could just drop all the way fucking off this year. Could drop all the way off. I'm talking about could miss a bowl this year. And then you have UCLA, which is it I'm just going to use the word blah for UCLA. Like I don't, it's just kind of meh. Like there's nothing there's nothing overtly terrible about him, but there's also nothing that excites you. Quarterback doesn't excite you. Nothing excites you about UCLA. Is that right? Is that fair, Blutman?
J. Michael Sturdivant and TJ Harn are exciting, but I don't think that their full talents were on display at all last year. I think TJ Harn was good last year, but splitting carries with Carson Steele didn't do him any justice. Then J. Michael Sturdivant only had like 35 catches last year. It's terribly low. He needs to be near a 70
Yes.
range, double-digit touchdowns.
Yeah, it's just but I still think the blah is the best way to they lost their coach in February. They ended up going with the homegrown guy.
Also
I
lost.
thought you were going to say something there.
Also lost our
Yeah.
defense.
Yeah. No, I get it. Oh boy. Let's see.
Also, Brandon, to be fair, asking anybody if their team is blah in August before college football season, you're not going to get an agreement on that.
I would
I
firmly
agree.
disagree. I would firmly disagree because nobody knows his team better than him on this show. If you ask me about my team right now, I'd be like, ugh.
That's different than blah.
I completely
right,
agree
Blattman?
with Law, though.
Yeah, right. He agrees with Blah.
Oh, okay.
I think if you're
They
going to
are
plot
very
anyone on planet Earth, it's Liam Blutman.
That's a good point.
If he
But
thinks,
like, Ev,
if he
would
thinks
you,
UCLA is
Ev,
blah,
would you
he's
ever
gonna
say
tell you
blah? Yeah, like I would never, like I would be one way or the other. Like either we're gonna stink or we're gonna win everything. Like blah is just kind of apathy.
Underwhelming,
that's
blah, mediocre.
That's where a lot of people are with their teams. They like if you're not in this NIL era, you're either really excited and think you're buying winners, or you're just kind of all right. Well,
Yeah, like they're
Here we go
going into
again.
the Big Ten with the head coach who all
Has
he
never
could say
coached.
about the school was they're in Los Angeles. Like that's where the state of the program is. Not great.
yeah.
Great shirts though, Liam. Great shirts.
Thank you.
I look at like I said, I don't think there's a whole lot of bad in this conference. I don't know how I think I don't know how much super good there is. I know there's elite at the top, and I can't quite quantify that next level. Probably led by Penn State. I think Michigan drops back into that. Iowa, and then maybe Wisconsin. I can't quantify that next level, but then maybe we can get into that in just a minute. But you've got a lot of new quarterbacks here. You got a lot of old quarterbacks who are trying to grow, like Drew Aller. All the hype in the world a couple of years ago. Last year, good numbers, solid season. But when it came time to put the chips on the table and cash out, couldn't do it against the better teams. Can he do it this year? You got Ohio State with Will Howard. I think they're elite at every position except quarterback. Like there's a lot of quarterback. Like Michigan, is it Orgy? Is it what are we going to do at quarterback? A lot of quarterback uncertainty, yet incredibly high ceilings. Like I'll take Nebraska, Dylan Raiola, for example. 5-star freshman. I assume they give him the keys early on, which could lead to some big things, or it might suck. Like a lot of quarterback uncertainty here.
And also, like, I mean, even just like you mentioned all of those things, then like Dylan Gabriel, who's like high in the Heisman. I mean, is he leading the Heisman odds right now? I'm pretty sure if not, he's like number 2. You
He's
got
way up
Tyler
there.
Van Dyke in the mix. Like you've got all these different
Will Rogers at Washington.
Which by the way, Brandon, I know we talked about this a little bit ago. Like I love getting him back into like an air raid system, and I feel bad for you if that happens. I feel bad for what you're gonna watch happen.
I have no beef towards Will Rogers at all.
I
assume
it's not going to make you sad.
I mean, the last 18 months of Mississippi State have sucked. Mike Leach died, and then we tried to run a non-air raid offense last year. It didn't work. So, whatever. I'm kind of numb to all of that.
That's fair. But in general, this conference, like, because, we talked about the Pac-12 last year, how quarterback heavy it was. And then now some of these teams have come in. You've got Dylan Gabriel from OU, and, we'll talk about all the different things. But there's a lot of, like, is Tyler Van Dyke going to be a guy that we care about? Is Will Rogers going to be a guy we care? Will Howard, like all these different guys who've been places, but they haven't panned out for whatever reason. Do they finally find a place they pan out? That's what's most exciting to me. It goes back to the transfer portal. I love the transfer portal for this reason.
Agreed. I can't wait to see if Minnesota quarterback Max Brosmer out of New Hampshire is the real deal.
Aiden Childs as well in the transfer portal. If we're talking about transfer portal quarterbacks, you got to talk about him. So yeah, I guess we can dive into it, ladies and gentlemen, and we can. If I see that we're not talking about a team enough, maybe I'll just bring them up and say, well, let's talk about them. But I guess we can start with our surprise team of the year. Now, this could mean anything to anybody. To me, it's just a team that's been an also ran that you look up might go 9-3, 10-2, and can really matter and mean something in this conference. I will let our newbies go first. I will let
I like it.
Big Av start for surprise team in the Big Ten this year.
So you just mentioned them before, Brandon. My surprise team this year, I'm going to buy in Nebraska this year, Brandon, Kayce, Liam. I'm going to buy in on them, and it's for two main reasons. Actually, I'll say three. The first is they bring back, I believe it's 9 starters from a very, very, very strong defense. Very strong.
Yeah.
That should be strong once again. Can you sit your watch for that? They'll be a good defense. 2, I'm buying into Raiola. I'm buying in him. I think he's an elite talent. I think he's special. I think he will be a significant improvement from what they had the last couple of years. And 3 is Matt Rule. A couple years in the Matt Rule era, get some more of his players in there. He's won in college, at least. He's won everywhere he's been. I think he's going to do a very good job there. It would not surprise me at all. And also, their schedule is relatively favorable in terms of playing some of the top teams in the Big Ten. If they just fucked around and went 9-3, even 10-2, that wouldn't shock me. Nebraska is my surprise team. I think they're going to have a very, very strong season.
Let me throw this in support of you, and somebody, for the love of God, quit typing. In support of you,
Liam. He's taking notes, Brandon.
Yeah, whatever.
Tell me graphics for later.
Give me a reason, Big Av, to support your point, why Nebraska can't start 6-0. They open the season with UTEP and Colorado at home. Then they have Northern Iowa and Illinois. They do not leave Lincoln until September 28th. So UTEP, Colorado, Northern Iowa, Illinois, all at home. That feels like 4-0 to me.
Yep.
They go to Purdue. Purdue's not great. They have Rutgers at home on October 5th heading into their bye week. Now, the back of the schedule is a motherfucker. I'm not going to lie. Back of the schedule is tough. They got at Ohio State, at USC, at Iowa, and they also have Wisconsin and UCLA at home. That's pretty nasty. But that first 6 could really get them rolling, get them going, but it's all about that quarterback, man.
And it's tough because you can only take the spring game for so much. He looked awesome in the spring game. Even just his ball placement, really, really nice. So you can just tell he's got. We don't know what's going to happen over the next few years. I think he's got an NFL arm talent. I think I'll say I'll keep it at that. But
have you seen how much he looks like Mahomes?
It's almost scary. I almost don't like how much he's almost. I think he naturally looks like him, and he's trying even more to look like him. Even just what he's wearing, like his facial hair, the haircut.
When that photo came out, I thought it was actually Patrick Mahomes, like at first glance. Like when I was scrolling on my phone, I was like, oh, that's just Patrick Mahomes. Like, why is he looking like he's moving into a dorm? It's crazy.
And it's like cool with like it doesn't just stop at like the accessories though and what he wears. It's all the way down to his mannerisms.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
You can tell he watches a ton of Mahomes tape. It's very clear.
Nebraska's QB1 and like face of the program is a Patrick Mahomes cosplayer. It's amazing.
All right, Liam.
Yeah.
Who's your surprise team of? Yep. I think you've already said it here before, but go ahead. I'll let you do it again.
My facial expression of disgust was for good reason, because those Indiana Hoosiers are not at the bottom of the barrel in this conference. I've talked about them before, but this team, they could start red hot. Look at that schedule, Brandon, and you tell me how many wins they could rip right off to start the season, because they could get to 6, they could get to 7, heck, they could maybe even start off 8-0. That's how favorable their schedule is, and it's always nice when you've got Kurt Signay coming in, who's one of the brighter minds of our game, one of the great coaching acquisitions in this cycle. He's coming in with a ton of transfers, a lot of them on the offensive side of the ball, where you've got Curtis Rourke playing at quarterback, who's a proven field general, great arm, precise passing. He is a precision passer, and they've got dudes at receiver. Sure, Miles Cross is coming over to Indiana from Ohio with Curtis, but they've got Miles Price coming in from Texas Tech. He's a nice smaller receiver with a lot of speed that they'll want to get touches. Devin McCauley, Elijah Surratt, Kayshawn Williams, Omar Cooper Jr., and then they've got Zach Horn at tight end. Like, This team is loaded in the passing attack, and I think that they're going to be able to score a lot and win some games because of it. We'll see what happens with the defense, but look at that schedule, man. They could win so many games.
He's so
Kayce?
passionate. He's so
He is.
passionate.
He believes in the Hoosiers.
And heck,
Okay,
they could
so-
beat Michigan too.
Indiana.
I said that I went back and forth and I scratched a bunch out. I need you guys to see so that people believe me. My surprise right here, which I gave away some of them. I don't know if you could read that. It also said Nebraska. So I am doubling down with Ev. I can go the other way. I had Iowa as well. So I could kind of make an argument for either. But the reason I ended up landing on Nebraska, for everything Ev said, it's a top-notch defense, a manageable schedule. I like Dylan Raiola. But the thing for me is they haven't made a bowl game since 2016. And right now it feels like the kind of culture around it, like the narrative is like, oh, Nebraska, they believe they're going to be good again. Ha. Like they've got a freshman quarterback. Like everybody's kind of laughing at them. Like it's like they're not going to be back. To me, I think it's going to surprise people how well he fits into this and how well they can rebound back into having I'm not saying they're going to be potentially like a national title contender, but making it back to the postseason, kind of getting people in Lincoln all happy again, that to me is going to be a surprise to a lot of people because I fall into that trap very easily. Like, oh, Nebraska's living in the 90s again, but this defense is incredibly good. Like you said, the schedule too. And I do believe that the quarterback that caused so much issues whenever he left Georgia is going to be the guy we think they're going to be. So I'm also doubling down on Nebraska if that's okay. If you want me to go to a different one, I'll go to a different one.
No, you go with Nebraska.
Yeah. So I have Nebraska. And Ev, I don't know about you, but I feel like when you like really start to like let yourself believe it, you're like, oh my God, are we going to be sitting here at like the end of October, early November, and guys like Will Compton and like all the big, they're going to be like, see, we tried to tell you. And it's like, to me, it's like that wouldn't like, it'll surprise me that people doubted it enough at some point, if that makes sense. But I love this defense and I love what they can do.
Well,
Brandon?
that leaves me. I see your Nebraska. See your Indiana. I see your Nebraska. Not bad picks. Not going to be the most surprised team because that's the one that I'm choosing right now.
Okay.
And how surprised would you be when you look up at the end of November and you see the conference standings and sitting right there at 9-3 from Piscataway, New Jersey, is Rutgers.
Hoorah.
You did it, Brandon. You did it.
Greg Schiano is a team builder. He's a program builder, and it's taken him a minute. It ain't easy. It ain't easy building a winner anywhere, but to do it in Piscataway, New Jersey, where it's always been tough to win. I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten. I am saying they're going to be a very, very good team, and I think being that 9-3 makes maybe 8-4. I got a couple things for you. First of all, the defense, everybody's back. It's a veteran-ass defense. It's a good defense, a solid defense. Running game is good. Now, they need Kaliakmakis from Minnesota to come in and be pretty decent at quarterback. That's a big step. He is my neighbor up there in Antioch, Illinois. We live on the same lake, but not a big deal. Anyway, they need some pass catchers to step up. They need an actual passing game that they've tried to work on. The running game's strong. The defense is strong, but I give you the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the top 5 teams in the Big Ten are, in any order, Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State, and Iowa. I think those are your top 5 teams. How many of those 5 are on the Rutgers schedule?
Only one, right? Don't they miss the top 4?
You're incorrect.
I thought that they missed Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and do they miss all 5?
They miss all 5 of them.
Oh.
They miss all 5 of them. They don't play Iowa. They don't play Michigan. They don't play Oregon. They don't play Ohio State. They don't play Penn State. They're in conference. They open conference play home against Washington. They go to Nebraska, your surprise team. They have Wisconsin at home, UCLA at home, at USC, Minnesota at home, at Maryland, Illinois, at Michigan State. If I were trying to make a big move in the Big Ten and I knew I had to go on the road 4 times, then please give me Maryland. Please give me Michigan State. Please give me these teams. Don't give me at Oregon. Don't give me at Iowa. So I think the schedule, the team, the coach, everything is here for Oregon. If you look up at the end of November, you're like, wait a minute. For Rutgers. Wait a minute. Rutgers is 9-3? You're goddamn right. That's the surprise team in the Big 12, the Big 10 this year. Shit, Brandon, talk right.
Greg Schiano is such a badass too. God, that man, like, he could kick the shit out of anybody.
But he's just been quietly kind of putting pieces together and putting pieces together and putting pieces together. It hasn't happened overnight. It hasn't been sexy, but he's a good, solid meat and potatoes coach, and this is a meat and potatoes team.
And speaking of kicking, college football fans are going to love Jai Patel,
All right.
our kicker, long of 51.
All right.
EJ, big fan of his.
Wait,
Now,
Brandon just okay. All right.
who is the most – no, let's do this. Who's the worst team in the Big Ten? And we will once again start with our newbies, and we'll flip the order here. Blutman, who's the worst team in the Big Ten?
Yeah, so you look at the bottom barrel of this conference, and it kind of gets tough to pick, but kind of became a bit easier for me. It's going to be Purdue. I think they have the longest odds to win this conference. Their win total is only at 4.5. And you kind of look at the roster, and there's one name that sticks out, and that's Dylan Dynaman, and then the rest of it is just I can't say.
Well, the running back's good, isn't he?
Yeah, but like Dylan Dynaman was like the crown jewel of this team. I don't even think it's close. Like Maccabee's good, but Dylan Dynaman was a breakout true freshman that was rewriting the record books at Purdue instantly. He was third in the country of interceptions. That's the best player on this team, and it's not even close.
Okay.
But yes,
Is Purdue unanimous?
I don't really like Purdue this year. They've got Notre Dame in non-conference. They go to Oregon State as well. They drew Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. My Hoosiers at the end of the year, they're on the road. Like Michigan State and Illinois aren't gimmies on the road either. I think they have a very difficult schedule. I don't think their team is good enough to win a lot of these games.
I mean, I know Ev and Brandon, you said that this was the most difficult one for you. And I understand, like, you can make arguments for, Illinois or Indiana. And I know Liam said no. But to me, like, when you look at Purdue, they did win 4 games last year. And, Ryan Walters, I don't think is a terrible coach. But just when you look at the rest above that, I feel like you can make a little bit of an argument. To me, just because you're playing in a new, newly reformed conference, and you have, like Liam mentioned, Notre Dame. To me, it's like pretty easy to say like they have like the lowest ceiling to me. Like that doesn't mean they're going to be god awful. No, I mean winning 4 games is not good, but it's not like ugly Vanderbilt ugly. But I just don't see how they can do anything with Hudson Card and just like say like, okay, this is going to be a much improved team. To me, I think it's a pretty easy thing to just be like, they're going to be the worst. Does that mean it's going to be the worst in the country? Probably not, but it's going to be the worst in the conference.
Big Ev?
Yeah, I talked about this as my toughest one to pick. I thought about Illinois just because they lost so much, especially in defensive front. But I think Bielema, get enough coach to help them out. I agree with Blutman on some of Indiana. I like Cernetti. I think he brought in a lot of offensive talent in the transfer portal. You could say Northwestern, like a regression from what they had last year, but I agree. I think it's Purdue. For me, Blutman had the schedule. When I looked at that schedule, it is such a gauntlet. I just don't know how they do it. I even was looking at like a UCLA or Minnesota trying to go like a longer shot, but I think Purdue is the answer. I think they don't have a lot to. They didn't bring in a lot like transfer wise. They didn't bring in a ton of talent. Schedule's brutal.
Brutal.
It was hard to go another way. I tried to go another way. Purdue kept being the answer.
Yeah, they have one guaranteed win on the schedule, and it's Indiana State. And that's how you kick things off. And then the rest of it's going to be an uphill battle.
Like you said, the 2 out of Oregon State and Notre Dame, brutal out of conference.
Yeah. I am going to go a different way, so it will not be unanimous.
Okay.
And it might not make everybody here happy. But if you're transitioning to a new conference, you want to do so with some stability. You want to do so with some roster cohesiveness. You want to do something. You want everybody in the building to be as good as you need them. Like you need something you can count on. And if your new coach, who's never been a head coach, can't handle himself at media days and he can't get through an opening statement without looking like a deer in the headlights, what in the fuck is going to happen when he's standing on the sidelines with 90,000 fans at Beaver Stadium yelling, calling him whatever? Like, I don't know that UCLA – in fact, I know that on paper UCLA is not the worst roster here. They're not. But if you talk about who's going to have the worst season and who has the worst results – you mentioned the team, Purdue has one winnable game on their schedule. I can make a case that UCLA only has one for sure win on the schedule.
Yep.
They open at Hawaii, and I think they win that. But after that, they got Indiana at home. Well, that was your surprise team.
Indiana's playing that game on Friday night.
Then here, listen to this. Their next 3 games are at LSU, Oregon at home, and at Penn State. Welcome to college football, Deshaun Foster.
Yep.
That you got Chase Garbers at quarterback. That blowing anybody's skirt up like anything. There's no talent here that makes you go, whew, they got that guy. And then you take away Chip Kelly, you take away veteran coaching, you take away all that. And I know they got Kansas City offensive coordinator.
Bieniemy.
They got
Bieniemy.
Thank you. Not the enema. Not that. That's something that goes in your butt.
I said Bieniemy.
Bieniemy.
It's
Bieniemy.
why.
Bieniemy would be something if I told you to go.
I know what you said. Yes.
Yeah.
Bieniemy.
No, they got Minnesota. They got at Rutgers, at Nebraska, at Washington. Are they winning a road game, by the way? At LSU, at Penn State, at Rutgers, at Nebraska, at Washington. I think this is the worst team in the Big Ten. I think they might go 2-10. I think UCLA is going to be really, really bad.
I think that's fair. I do disagree with one of your sentences, one of your statements where you said they don't have like anybody on the roster that you go like, whoa about. I think J. Michael Sturdivant would have been. He was a very coveted portal prospect last year. I think he just did dirty in the offensive scheme last year. And then TJ Harden, I think, is a running back that starts on a lot of other teams. I think that those are 2 really good players. I know you're speaking about Garbers. Garbers is such an afterthought, essentially, that even Chip Kelly called him by his brother's name last year in an interview on the field of a football game. During a mid-game interview, he called him Chase Garbers, not Ethan Garbers. That's where you can't win with that.
Well, it's a good thing I didn't say it because I was about to call him Chase Garbers too. But it's So anyway,
I don't
better
hate
than the enema, I guess.
They were a team I looked long and hard at as the worst team. I don't hate the pick.
Well, I was like you. I looked at Illinois too because I don't believe in the quarterback at Illinois. I don't believe in a lot of things, but ultimately there were a lot of these teams I looked at. Michigan State doesn't have a whole lot of roster talent, but quarterback and coach, I kind of like them. I like the coach at Illinois. Northwestern, not a whole lot to like, but then that coach, what he did last year, and then I look at UCLA, and I can't say about the coach what I can say about the other coaches because I can't tell you for sure Foster knows what he's doing as a head coach of a Power 5 football team. And the fact that the only time I've seen him represent the school, he couldn't get through a paragraph.
Well, and you also, like, when we've done these in the past few years, like, they had DTR, they had Zach Charbonnet, like, they had players, and then we were always like, and they have Chip Kelly. Like, that's going to push them over the edge. You're 1,000% right that it's like that, like, little, like, hope for UCLA just kind of hanging on having Chip Kelly there is dead and done. I have such a hard time thinking UCLA is just, going to fall off the face of the earth, but I guess you're right. Well, how do we know?
Also, I think their defense is going to be putrid.
The defense is going to take a gargantuan step
like
back.
Putridly bad.
Yeah.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, who is the most – no, we'll do disappointing next. Let's do wild card team. Who is the wild card team here who could go up, they could go down, they could affect somebody else's season? You can use wild card, and you can even tell me how you're using it. We'll subvert the order here. I'll let Kayce Smith go first here on the wild card team.
So, Brandon, you mentioned them earlier, and to me, when I look at this, and I know they're in a new conference, which makes them a wild card enough, but it's Washington. To me, it's to see what Washington's going to do because, you've got Jed Fish, who obviously did a ton of great things at Arizona, had Arizona in the conversation for the Pac-12 last year. He knows how to coach his ass off. But you lose Kalen DeBoer, but you're like, okay, Jed Fish can do it. Then you bring Will Rogers from Mississippi State, who under Mike Leach's offense was so good, put up crazy numbers. And the only reason it didn't work out there is because they went away from what he does. So would it surprise me if a really good head coach and a guy that fits into a system like that gets together at Washington, who clearly had a lot of talent last year in a new conference and could wreak some havoc? Absolutely not. Would it surprise me if they absolutely cannot figure it out in the Big Ten and these defenses are too much for a first-time head coach there with a first-time quarterback together? Like, I understand Jed Fish did great things at Arizona. That was in the Pac-12. I understand Will Rogers played really well under Mike Leach, who is the father of the air raid. To me, there's the way that their ceiling and their floor looks is just a completely big toss up to me. So I'm having Washington there. I don't necessarily think, like, if you ask me what I think the highest thing they could do, like, I don't think that they're going to be like at the top of the conference. Like, I don't think that they're going to be beating Ohio State and Oregon. But if you told me they were in that next level, I could agree with that. Or if you told me they're at the very bottom trying to figure it out for the first year in the Big Ten, I could also believe that.
All right, Blutman, the wild card team.
Yep. So I've got a team that I think could win anywhere from 6 to 11 games, truthfully. And all I'm trying to do out here in the college football galaxy is speak the truth. I think USC could be a very good team, and it starts with having Coach Lynn, who they poached from UCLA, who took one of the worst defenses in the country. They were around like A5th, A6th ranked or whatever. Turn that unit around into a top 15 defense just like that. That's what they're going to look to do with Lynn right off the bat. They're going to be a more aggressive defense. They're going to be more physical. They're actually going to tackle. And Lynn emphasizes like getting into the quarterback's heads with disguised coveraging and everything. That's all stuff that USC desperately needs in the post-Alex Grinch era. Thank goodness Lincoln Riley cut ties with them. How about the fact that they're also adding in Doug Belk, who is a Houston's defense coordinator. He's going to be coaching DBs. And then they bring in national championship winning coach Matt Entz as an assistant head coach and linebackers coach from North Dakota State. That's one heck of a hire that flew well under the radar because he took such a lesser role. And he's going to do wonders for him. And again, USC's defense, please don't all take expose me here. You guys are going to be able to tackle. What an upgrade that is. Now, when you look at USC's offense and why this team could win 6 to 11 games, that offense and that passing attack is absolutely disgusting, and it is not fair that they have 4 wide receivers in their true sophomore seasons that could all be NFL WR1s or 2s, in Zach Branch, Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon, and Deuce Robinson, who was literally made in a laboratory. Deuce Robinson, 6'6", 220. He could hit 21 miles per hour with the ball in his hands. That's a big play machine that I don't think any defender in the country wants to go up against. And then they're all different. Like Lane is 6'4". He brings the monstrous catch radius. Lemon is dangerous with the ball in his hands. He's twitchy. He's dynamic after a catch. Like, good luck tackling him. And then we've seen Zach Branch. We saw him on the first kickoff he returned in college football. We've seen how explosive and quick he is. Like, these guys are disgusting. And then you have Miller Moss throwing them the ball. Miller Moss, we got to see in the Holiday Bowl. Finally got to see him play. If he doesn't play in the Holiday Bowl, he could have transferring on like Sam Houston State or some garbage and never been heard of again. Thank goodness we got to see Miller Moss, because this kid is a very good dimer. He does a very good job of just moving around the pocket, keeping poise, throws off his back foot very well. He has spectacular touch on his throws, always giving his receivers an opportunity to make a play, make high point contested grabs. He moves from different arm slots, scans the field well. Miller Moss could end up being one of the best quarterbacks in the country this season. USC's win total's at 7. They could win anywhere from 6 to 11 games. Look at the schedule. Like, there's a lot of games on this schedule that they could go out and just win. They could win at Michigan early on in the season as Michigan's going through the repercussions of the Stallions dilemma. Wisconsin at home. They go at Minnesota. They're getting Penn State at home. Oh, they could beat them. At Maryland. That's another one they could win. Rutgers. At Washington. They've already done that. Nebraska. UCLA. They've already bullied in the past. And then Notre Dame at the end. They have so many wins on their schedule they could get. They have to start the tone early against LSU in Vegas.
All right, I might put you on a shot clock the rest of the show.
What?
That was forever. It was very well explained, and you hit every note, and you very well educated us on USC. I got that. That was a perfect answer. A little long.
Well, I mean, I talk slow.
It was very thorough.
No, you didn't talk
Liam.
slow. You hit everybody. Like, that was a. I feel like I know more about USC than I did when you started talking. So that's great.
That
You
is
did a
true.
great job. Just tighten it up a little bit.
Shout out Deuce Robinson.
Yeah.
I mean, the 6'6", 220 runs 21 miles an hour.
Liam's brain is crazy.
I didn't know that fact.
I know,
Brandon.
it's frightening.
Yeah.
Brandon, next time that Liam talks, you know what you need to do? You need to sit back and you need to grab some pork rinds. That's what you need to do.
Well, bitch, I sure can.
You sure can.
Some pork rinds
We
out
have-
one.
Get them pork rinds out. So we have a new friend of Unnecessary Roughness. We are so excited. I know I was in the New York office with Ev when our sales team came down and said that pork rinds was going to jump on board. And we were so excited. Pork rinds is, I mean, I feel like it's an underrated snack, guys. Like, I feel like people
It is a
don't
vastly underrated snack.
vastly. I don't know why the thumbs up just happened on YouTube, but like when you talk about pork rinds, people like they kind of give you a look. Like pork rinds are delicious. Brandon,
I
tell
know.
us what you're eating right now. Tell us. I mean, I know they're pork rinds, but what you tasting, boy? What you tasting?
I'm eating the hot honey pork rinds. The hot honey, I've had the barbecue and I've had the original. This is my first tasting of the hot honey, and it is fantastic.
Oh, the crunch. Like you want to, when you talk about a good snack, whether
Mhm.
you're just like hanging out at home, you're listening to Liam talk about USC, you're watching college football, whatever it may be, that crunch that comes along with a snack is everything. It's so satisfying. And it's just, they're just, they're just
Oh,
like true
damn.
champions. I mean, they're so, I haven't had the hot honey yet. I'm so jealous of the hot honey. Ev,
You know,
like we're snack people. We love the pork rinds.
Get some of the pork rinds down here. I need to get me some.
so here's the flavors they got. The heat just got to me, but that's okay. Sea salt and cracked black pepper, I've tried those. The sweet barbecue flavored, I've tried those. The spicy dill, the
Oh.
pineapple ancho chili pork rinds, the pasilla chili cheese, pasilla chili cheese, and the hot honey. I need to try those chili cheese.
They
Hell,
got
I might have
a
some in that box right
I
there.
kind of
They
want
got
to
a
run
spicy-
downstairs to your studio and take one of the hot honeys.
Well, you'd be going to the wrong place because they're all right here, motherfucker.
they got spicy dill. I know that I say this a lot when it comes to different foods and drinks, or maybe not a lot. I think I've only said it once. I would bathe in the spicy dill. That sounds unbelievable. I'm gonna have to get my hands on those. So pork rinds, they are
Woo,
on.
hold on, the hot honey. I need some water, but
Well, also if you're listening or watching, remember Brandon has the hot tolerance of a newborn child.
it's still in the womb.
Yeah, no, like my 17-month-old toddler can handle more spice than Brandon Walker.
Yeah,
That is
your son would call me a pussy. I cannot handle hot food
yes,
at
he
all.
would.
And I wouldn't call this spicy. For a normal person, it's not spicy. For me, it is. Here's the spicy dill right here. I'm not going to be able to try it until I get some water though, because
Brandon, you should not try anything that says spicy, because if you're having a hard time with hot honey, I feel like spicy might send you into a different orbit. But regardless, we're happy. Pork rinds is going to be with us the entire football season. They've got those Southern recipes, so crunch on the Southern recipe pork rinds. Find your rinds at porkrinds.com, porkrinds.com. And Brandon, I got to tell you, we've got a lot of great ads, great sponsors. We're banged out with sponsorships. Pork rinds fits this show pretty damn well, I'd have to say.
I love it. It's just called pork rinds. God, 1 gram carbohydrates per serving. I'm gonna try these hot ones whenever. Actually, Blutman, next time you talk, I'll just eat the whole bag.
Okay.
So I think we left off at wild card team for Big Ev.
Yeah, so I almost went USC, but I'm glad I didn't because Blutman articulated his point.
Oh, you're going to take mine. That's fine. You're going to take mine.
I'm going to say Michigan's the wild card team. I think they are the wild card team because they're maybe not quite as flux as Blutman said with USC, but they're a team that if they were in the Big Ten championship game, it wouldn't shock me at all. But if they ended up being like the 7th team as well, that also wouldn't shock me. I just think they obviously still defense is still very talented. They have 3 guys in the defense that are almost locks to go in the top, probably half of the first round of the NFL draft. But they have so much on offense. Obviously, Edwards is good, but quarterback, we have no idea what's going to be a situation with quarterback, how well he's going to play. The coaching situation, everything that's now going on to Sherrone Moore. They obviously lost a lot in the offensive line. Roman Wilson, a lot of important skill position guys. I just think they're a team that obviously, listen, I said wild card in the sense that they're going to be there, even if they had an awful season, they're going to be in the top half of the Big Ten. But if they went 11-1, wouldn't shock me. If they lost 4 games, also wouldn't shock me. And I think when it goes to the elite teams in the Big Ten, I think they are a big wild card in that sense. Where are they going to be a team that's legit contending for a national title, legit contending for the Big Ten, or are they going to be a team that's out of the playoff, 3-4 losses, not just kind of like in more of the second tier of the Big Ten? Are they going to be with I already said I think Nebraska's going to rise up and be good. Are they going to fall more into category of USC, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Washington, or are they going to be at the top? So Michigan is my wild card team. I think where they fall is going to be a big factor in the especially in the top of the Big Ten.
Yeah, no,
Great answer.
I do think that's a good answer. So wild card team is to me, and I just got to say, I had two teams written for surprise team, and I didn't know which one I was going to go with because I felt passionate about both. You both took Nebraska. I thought about Nebraska there as well. So when I didn't get them, I also thought about them for this spot right here, wild card team. Wild card because I think they'll be pretty good, but they got the young quarterback. But I'm not going to go with them because I'm going to go with another team. I'm going to go with a team. Everybody talks about Matt Rule, building programs, and that's all well and good. I'll tell you another guy who can build a program, and it's a guy that took Cincinnati to the college football playoff. Let me tell you about another quarterback who was pretty damn good one year, and then it just didn't go right for him after that. Tyler Van Dyke. Let me tell you about a defense that traditionally, I think last year they took a step back, but traditionally is pretty damn good up there at Wisconsin. I feel like they'll get back to it. And Wisconsin is a team that plays so many other teams that are going to be playing for a lot. Like how good Wisconsin is this year is going to determine the season for a lot of teams. Like, for example, the first big test for Kalen DeBoer in Alabama as they try to get going is at Wisconsin on September 14th. They got to go to Wisconsin, and that's going to be an interesting spot right there. USC, you want to be good in this conference, you want to make a name, you need to beat Wisconsin in September. Oregon, as you go down the stretch run of possibly playing for a national title or contending for the Big Ten, you got to go to Wisconsin in November. On and on and on at Iowa. Penn State has to go to Wisconsin. Like, if Wisconsin is really good, it's going to upset the apple cart of teams like Iowa and Penn State and Oregon and Alabama and on and on and on. If they're average, then nothing's going to happen there. But I think they're a wild card because I can see a world where Fickle, as everybody's looking at Matt Rule, what's he going to do over there? What's he going to do over there? Over here, Fickle's just fucking working, and he's taking these teams out behind the fucking woodshed and changing the game of college football. So I don't know that I see, frankly, I look at Nebraska's roster, I see a little bit more talent than I see at Wisconsin, but that's why they're the wild card to me.
I like that a lot. And you and I, I've said this multiple times over the last couple months, like the Tyler Van Dyke experiment and just like what that's going to look like and how high we were on him with Miami. So yeah. I don't know.
They've also got a number of transfers on offense. So I don't know how well it's, everybody's transfer dependent, but I think they're particularly transfer dependent as far as scoring points this year.
I mean, if you're going to believe in a coach to build a program, Luke Fickell is definitely on the short list of guys that you want to be at your program. There's no doubt about that.
All right, we move on to the most disappointing team in the Big Ten. And I will go first because I haven't gone first yet.
Go for it, sir.
Big F to me was a lot more charitable than I'm about to be. A lot more charitable than I'm about to be. I just want to make sure I get the schedule pulled up because I think the schedule is not all that accommodating for a team that could be in turmoil. It's a month before the season, and Michigan and their new coach are having to answer questions. They're having to answer questions about what happened last year. The NCAA is talking about them. Now, Michigan did a hell of a job last year. I'll give them credit. When the shit was hitting the fan, they got better. They did a hell of a job dealing with distractions last year. But that was Jim Harbaugh at the top. It was a veteran quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. It was all these things. It was an elite defense. The defense will be really good this year. They have two of the best players in the country, Graham and Will Johnson. They have two top 10 defensive players in the country. Their offensive line will take a step back. Donovan Edwards is really good. The tight end is really good. But the receiver talent's just okay. I look at the schedule, the second week of the season, they're defending national champs. They got Texas coming in. Texas didn't fall off. Michigan might have. Quarterback. What are we doing at quarterback in Michigan? I don't know. But they got Texas. They got USC. Their road trips are at Washington, at Illinois, at Indiana, at Ohio State. Obviously, at Ohio State is going to be a lot to think about. Oregon's coming into Michigan. Like, there's a lot of places here to trip up, and they have to beat all the teams they've been beaten by whatever. I think Michigan, after winning a national title and facing these problems, facing everything that's going to be weighing on them again, it'll be hard for me not to see them as the most disappointing team. Maybe that's 9-3. Maybe that's 7-5. but I got Michigan as the most disappointing team.
Brandon, it's very apt that you were talking about this because Liam just sent this in the group text that Jim Harbaugh has officially weighed in on what's going on with the allegations. Would you like to hear the quote? Or do you want to
Sure.
read it?
No, you say it.
Never lie, never cheat, never steal. I was raised with that lesson. I've raised my family on that lesson. I have preached that lesson to the teams that I've coached. No one's perfect. If you stumble, you apologize and you make it right. Today, I do not apologize. I do not participate, was not aware nor complicit in these said allegations. So it's back to work and attacking with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
This supports exactly what I said earlier. Sherrone Moore will be set up as the scapegoat. Jim Harbaugh is not stepping up, even though he's gone. He's not stepping up and taking any blame or anything. I bet Sherrone Moore is the guy that gets fucked here in this whole situation. I don't know if they cheated or not, whatever. Who knows? But Jim Harbaugh, although what would he have said? Would he have said, "Yeah, I did it. Fuck you"? But whatever. That's anyway. They're my most disappointing team. I don't want to open that can of worms again.
He's such a fucking scumbag. I'll leave it there. But what a lying sack of shit. You want to talk about Dabo being full of shit? Brandon, did you just hear that fucking quote?
Yeah, I heard it.
This guy is so full of shit, and people just eat it up. Just eat it up. This guy's great. SpongeBob, attack with enthusiasm. I'm so quirky. My fucking pants, whatever fucking dumbass pants he fucking wears.
Khakis.
Thank you.
Whatever fucking dumbass pants he wears.
Fucking khakis. This guy,
I have to say,
is so full of shit. He is so full of shit. And Sherrone Moore is being set up to fail so bad. You are so right. And I said it from the top. We don't have to get into it again. Sherrone Moore is absolutely gonna. He's bending over and taking the paddle for all the bullshit that Harbaugh did and fucking left because he's a fucking scumbag and he's a rat. He's a fucking.
All right.
The I'm not going to apologize today. It's like the Conor McGregor turn right there is pretty good. You got to admit that, Ev.
Because he gets to leave. McGregor had to fight in the UFC after that. He just gets to cheat, win, and then leave. It doesn't matter if he said we cheated, get fucked. It would be the same thing would happen. Nothing.
Yeah, he does have to deal with another dilemma though. Quentin Johnston's hands.
All right, that's an NFL show. Report Spicy Dill also good. Kayce, who's the most disappointing team in the Big Ten this year?
Okay, so you mentioned them in the top 5 of the Big Ten, and I understand why you did, but I'm going to take Iowa, and here's the reason. Because I understand that all along the way, everyone was looking at the offensive coordinator, Brian Ferentz, and being like, he's the problem. They can't score any points. If they can just get him out of here, and obviously getting rid of your son, like for Kirk Ferentz to go and get rid of his son, who's like a legacy guy, like he obviously is just kind of grasping at who can I blame before it ends up being me. And I think Tim Lester is probably a great offensive coordinator. I know he was with the Packers, and I know he's had a stint in college football. I just do not think that getting rid of Brian Ferentz is going to fix all the problems at Iowa. We know Iowa always has a very stout defense. We know that their games are like 6-9 all the time. I think that Iowa fans are hanging a little bit too much of hope on this idea that getting a new offensive coordinator under the same head coach that's been coaching for like what feels like 50 years is going to turn this program around. They have a lot of talent. I don't think they're going to be god awful, but the reason I say that I think they're going to be disappointing is because I think that what's going on in Iowa City is a little bit of kind of like wolves in sheep's clothing. Like, okay, sure, we get a new guy in, but it's still Kirk Ferentz's team. And I just don't think that that's going to be the answer. I think Kirk Ferentz needs to leave in order for that offense to end up eventually blossoming.
Liam Blutman, who's the most disappointing team in the Big Ten?
So I was between two teams here, and it was really between Michigan to me, but choosing Michigan, I feel just kind of taking the easy way out here. I'm going to go with Penn State. Penn State's win total is at 10.5. And look, time and time again, we talk about Penn State. And they just always I'm trying to figure out how to word this correctly, so I'm sorry. But James Franklin, again, will bring Penn State back to their promised land, and that land is the land of disappointment. I think, I believed in Penn State last year. Many others did. We are all foolish to do so. Bringing in Nicky from Kansas is a very intriguing offensive coordinator hire, and I get it. But if this team slips up week 1, right? They slip up, lose to West Virginia. You're in line to win 9 games, you would think, because I don't think that this team's going to be Ohio State. And I don't think this team's going to go and win at USC because I'm not high on USC. That's a 9-win team. That is very, very disappointing. And James Franklin said himself, win 10 or 11 games here, people are unhappy. Imagine what people are going to be like if Penn State goes out 9-3 this year. Yikes. Also, Penn State's on their 6th offensive coordinator in 11 seasons under James Franklin. That is not healthy. I'm sorry. I like the hire. It's not healthy though. Yeah, I don't know. Just Penn State also needs to find a WR1. I'm trying not to talk so much in depth like I did with SC, but you've got to find a WR1. Julian Fleming is not it, in my opinion. I think Harrison Wallace III could be, but you got to find that for Aller. Please help Aller out.
All right. Big Ev, your most disappointing team.
Yeah, mine is one that's no one said yet, so I'm glad that we had no repeats here. I'm going to Wisconsin as a disappointing team. I said it, I think, a few months ago on the show. I'm not a big Taylor Van Dyke guy. I think we've done that song and dance. I think he's just not that great. Not a lot of playmakers there to work with. Like you said, they're going to be very, very transfer portal dependent. And I like Luke Fickell. I have nothing against Luke Fickell. I think he's a great coach. I just think they're in a tough spot here. I sit and look at this schedule. I see 7 losses on this schedule. I
They have a
really
grueling schedule.
They're going to lose Alabama. I think they're going to go to USC and lose. I think they're going to go to Rutgers and lose, like Brandon's. I think they're going to lose at Penn State. I think they're going to lose at Iowa. They're going to lose to Oregon, and they're going to lose at Nebraska. That's 7 losses right there. You have Minnesota is not going to be an easy game at home. Even going to Northwestern, is going to be a dogfight. Like this team, I really think go 5-7. Very disappointing. When I know Rule has gotten more of the shine this year because people think a little like slightly higher than this year. They have Rayola. I think that's really more what it's based on more than anything. But Fickell was the guy that you thought was going to turn this thing around. Like you said, just brought Cincinnati to the playoff. And with this team this season, I really don't see is the defense. I'm sure will be fine. They always are. I'm sure they'll be solid. But there's not a lot to love on offense here. I just think the schedule's tough. I really think they go below 500 here. Yeah, I think Wisconsin's going to be very underwhelming.
Underrated game for Wisconsin this year is week 2 against South Dakota, who's going to be a top 5 team in the FCS.
Yeah, I actually meant to mention, and I'll address both your teams. I meant to mention when you talked about Penn State, that West Virginia game is so gigantic because people just assume it's Penn State. Like at West Virginia to open the season is nasty work. And last year, West Virginia came to compete in State College and ended up putting together a pretty good season. They're going to be pretty good this year too. So Penn State is a playoff contender who might be in the most danger, I would say, in week 1. And if they were to lose to West Virginia week 1, then you've got disappointing team locked up because that's just disappointing from the start. As far as you, Big F, this is kind of why I put them in the wild card. I think they might be better as a team than they've been, but that schedule is nasty. I could see them if they can knock a couple of those off. They're just so far up here. But if they lose to all of them, they're down here. That's why I think they're the wild card. I think they have a wide berth of what could end up being Wisconsin football this year.
Yeah, I just don't love having to go obviously play Bama is obviously tough. Having to go to USC, to Rutgers, to Iowa, like games that at home. Like if the USC game's at home, you feel much better. Them having to go to California, play them, having to go to Jersey, play Rutgers.
Yeah,
to Iowa.
And Oregon. I mean, Oregon coming to Camp Randall. I mean, Oregon's a monster. Like that's that. I mean, that's crazy.
All right. We have 4 categories left, but really 3. Let's do Coach of the Year, and I'll start with eeny, meeny, miny. Kayce, why don't you do Coach of the Year?
Well, I feel like these all kind of go together because I've made the mistake in the last few years, Brandon, of trying to get cute and have a different Coach of the Year than my teams and all that. And that just never works out for me. I'm going to take Dan Lanning, and I think that's kind of foreshadowing of what I think Oregon's going to do. Dan Lanning is obviously a guy we saw with Bo Nix, who, hand up, I did not think Bo Nix was going to be successful whatsoever. Did what he did. I know that they didn't go to the college football playoff. They couldn't beat Washington, but Dan Lanning going into a new conference. And I think that when we look at all the Power 4 conferences this year, we're going to obviously be paying so much attention to what these new teams do. Oregon has so much potential, so much hype. Dan Lanning has, there's tons of money to stay there. And I think that this team is not only going to be competing for the Big Ten, I think they're going to win the Big Ten, i.e. he's going to be the Coach of the Year, which would be hard to beat if you can win the title your first year in the conference. So I'm taking Dan Lanning.
All right, I'll go next, and I'm just going to go ahead and warn y'all I am getting cute with mine. I'm getting
Oh,
cute as fuck with
get
mine.
cute as fuck.
I'm getting just fucking dainty with mine.
Is
So
it
Get
Deshaun
cute.
Foster?
no, it's even cuter than that.
Slight
Oh,
clean.
This is so cute. And Big Ev, I think you're gonna like this. The coach of the year, the most important coach of the year, the guy who's gonna make the biggest difference, is not a head coach. The coach of the year in the Big Ten is the guy who's going to get Ohio State back to that grimy run game that
stop
they've
it.
gone away from.
Stop
Chip
it.
Kelly is the most important coaching hire in this conference this year, and he's going to be the difference when I foreshadow what I'm going to do in a little bit. He's going to
Mhm.
be the reason. If you look last year, Ohio State struggled at quarterback. They also struggled in the run game. Their yards per carry came down. Their total yards in the run game came down. If they had been able to keep that elite running game that they've been having for the last forever, then maybe the quarterback is able to survive a little bit better. But this year, Chip Kelly is now the offensive coordinator. Chip Kelly had 8 teams at Oregon. You know how many of those teams led the Pac-12 in rushing? 8 of them.
8.
All 8 of them. At UCLA, he didn't lead every year, but every year he was at UCLA, they finished first or second in the conference in rushing. So you go into Ohio State, now you got Will Howard. You don't have Marvin Harrison. You don't have the elite wide receiver core, at least not yet, that you've had at Ohio State. But what you do have, you have Quinshon Judkins, a guy who has the second highest freshman SEC rushing total ever. You have Travion Henderson, a guy who can fucking do it, has been battled some injuries. You have the best pair of running backs in the country, and you have an offensive coordinator who can get them back to that tough, hard-nosed, run the football game. Chip Kelly's my coach of the year in the Big Ten.
It's very cute, Brandon.
Wasn't that cute as hell?
That was
It's
cute
so
as
cute.
fuck.
I love
Just
that
think,
pick.
at the end of the year, you just punted the graphic pick, but I love the pick.
That's fine.
Love the pick.
That's why I didn't get cute, because I didn't want to punt it.
Blutman.
Yeah, I love the pick. I didn't know that we could go out there and
Well, maybe you don't want to be as cute as I am.
I didn't know if I wanted to get cute like that, I'd say Coach Lynn at USC. They're DC.
You're not allowed to be cute. I'm the only cute one here.
I understand that. That's why I gotta go with the head coach, and I've already talked about him so much. So I'm just gonna say 2 words: Coach Sig. Next.
That's
Okay.
that's Kurt Signetti at Indiana.
Yes, sir.
All right, but Blutman threw me off with a short answer. All right, Big Ev, finish us off in this category.
Yeah, listen, I'm not gonna be around the bush. I'm picking Ryan Day, and I'm picking Ryan Day because obviously it's gonna run the table, and he's gonna be undeniable as the coach of the year. It's like Brandon pointed out to you, this is the first time as head coach of Ohio State that he is passing off play calling duties. This is the first season that he is being the quote unquote CEO of the program, as opposed to the head coach who was running the offense. They never had an offense coordinator at his tenure at Ohio State until this year. And it's crazy to think that just a few months ago, it was going to be Bill O'Brien. And Bill O'Brien getting hired by Boston College is maybe the best thing that happened to Ohio State, because we got Chip Kelly to fall in line. Chip Kelly is a guy who brought up Coach Day. Coach Day coached under him. New Hampshire, he was this quarterback's coach when he was at the Eagles. There's a lot of trust there. And I think Ryan Day, as much shit as he gets, it's unbelievable that he, as active head coach in college football, he has the highest winning percentage of any coach in college football. Pretty crazy to think about the way he's talked about in the public narrative and just the Twitter sphere, if you will. But Ryan Day is going to do – this defense is going to be incredible. The running game is going to be spectacular. I've talked about it a bunch. Brandon just talked about it. And I think they are going to absolutely beat the shit out of the Big Ten this year. They're going to go to Oregon and win. They're going to beat Michigan at home, get that monkey off his back, and Ryan Day is going to be the coach of the year when he's undefeated at the end of the Big Ten regular season.
All right, very good. Little biased, but hey,
Hey,
they do have a good ass team.
We'll be
you know
fat.
how amazing it would be, Brandon, to be able to be a homer and be called a homer and also be probably right with some of your answers like that.
Yeah.
Like if any of the 3 of us did that, they'd be like, "Oh, what a homer pick!" Like, stop talking about your team. Ev does it. It's like, no, he's just talking ball.
No, if in the SEC one, I'm like, Mississippi State's going to run the table, and I think we all can tell that, right? You're gonna have me drug tested.
Exactly. And it's like you even remotely bring up your school if you're not in contention, you get made fun of. Ev's just like, yeah, no, like that. A lot of people would probably agree with him, and they don't like Ohio State. Before we move on, you know who is the sheet of the year, Ev? You and I were talking about these sheets. Ev as asking me, he was like, what set of Bowl and Branch sheets should I get? Because I obviously have been talking about how much I love them. Their unnecessary roughness. They're with us all season 2. They did the Mother's Day special. And I said, Ev, any sheet that you get from Bowl and Branch, you are going to love, because there's so many different reasons. But one of my, like, the 2 favorite things that I love about Bowl and Branch, one, they keep you very cool, because I hate being hot when I sleep. It's the absolute worst. So they keep you really cool, especially in the summer months. And then also, the more you wash them, the more comfortable and softer they get. So many sheets that aren't made well end up being awful. You have to throw them away. Not Bowl and Branch. They're a luxury brand that feels phenomenal. And Ev, I know you got sent the link. Have you purchased them yet?
Okay, so I have the waffle blanket. It is phenomenal, comfortable,
Yes.
warm. The sheets are in progress. They're on the way. I got the Kayce Smith guarantee. I'm very very excited to throw them on the mattress and try them out. Very
They're
excited.
so great. They're great. Yeah, I've said the Kayce Smith guarantee. They're 100% organic cotton. They're high quality thread count. It's the highest you can on earth, which is, I mean, when you talk about thread count, people want to throw numbers around. Just know Boll and Branch is the highest quality you can get on earth of 100% organic cotton. Their signature sheets are the ones I love, but you can get a ton of different kinds. They have robes, they have pajamas. I told Ev, I was like, if you've got somebody in your life that wants the pajamas, you should get them, because everything Boll and Branch is absolutely amazing. So sleep better at night with Boll and Branch sheets. You get 15% off plus free shipping on your first set of sheets with promo code RUFF at bollandbranch.com. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com, promo code RUFF for 15% off plus free shipping. Exclusions do apply. See site for details. The Kayce Smith guarantee. And Brandon, he said it many times. I know good sheets. Boll and Branch.
Yeah, you do. I didn't realize they were 100% organic cotton. So that puts me in the game, because that's all my wife wants to sleep on. So I'm buying her some sheets after the show.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to tell you, like, these are like, you don't play around 100%, and they don't they know exactly where the cotton's coming from too, which I know a lot of people don't necessarily care about that. I do. Like, they know every single thing of where it's sourced, and it's 100% the highest thread count you can get. It's sleeping on a cloud.
Yeah. All right, we have 2 categories left, because the last 2 are kind of together. When I talk about champion and title game. Anyway, so the last what?
Yep.
What am I missing?
Nope.
You're right.
Yep.
Yeah, Blutman. I know that we have
we're
3.
both right. We're both right.
I know that we have 3 technically,
Yep,
but you can combine the last 2.
Yep.
God Almighty!
We're both right. We're both right.
We're not both right. I'm right.
Right.
If we disagree, how can both be right?
Agree, disagree. Old saying.
Old
All
saying,
right.
Brandon, ever heard of it?
We will start with our player of the year, and Big Ev, I'll just start with you. Which Ohio State player are you going with?
Listen, Brandon, it was tough. There's a lot of good ones. A lot of really, really good ones. I thought about going cute and going defensive side of the ball because how elite the defense is going to be. I thought giving Caleb Downs a shout for just being the best player on the best defense in the country, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to go Will Howard either. I'm not just going to pick the quarterback. And this is tough because there's 2 obviously phenomenal running backs at Ohio State. But I'm going to pick Travion Henderson to be Big Ten Player of the Year. I think with the injuries he's had the last couple of years, I think people have forgotten how good and how talented this guy is. This is the man who, as a freshman, broke Maurice Claret's Ohio State touchdown record as a freshman. He is an unbelievable talent. Even just recently, I was watching some of the highlights from that Notre Dame game, the big, I think it was like 67-yard touchdown running break. This guy has high-end, top-of-the-line speed, a real home run hitter that can run between the tackles too. Travion Henderson's a special talent. They said if he went to the draft last year, there's a chance he would have been the first running back taken in the draft. Travion Henderson is your Big Ten Player of the Year.
Kayce Smith.
So I thought about trying to get cute and going off of the Oregon path here, but there's just, like, I thought about, like, Dylan Raiola. I'm very high on him. But I mean, I have to go chalk here, because I do think that the difference between Ohio State and Oregon, we'll get to that in a little bit. The difference is going to be, I think Dylan Gabriel is going to be better at quarterback. So I'm going to take him. He's got, I looked at maybe Evan Stewart, Tez Johnson. I think he's got a ton of weapons, but at the end of the day, if Oregon's going to win the Big Ten, they're going to win it because Dylan Gabriel has a Heisman type season. So chalk there for me as well.
Blutman.
I've done a lot of propaganda for my rifle today.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting more. I'm going with Miller Moss to win Player of the Year in
Wow.
the Big Ten. I don't want to be like everyone else. I don't want to choose the most popular guy. I thought real hard about Dylan Gabriel. That's why I ran out first, but I'm not going to do it. USC is going to score a lot. They're going to air it out plenty, and Moss is going to benefit greatly from that. Passing yards, touchdowns, completion percentage, big wins, hype, bringing USC back to the normal stature that they've had. That's all going to be very good for him. I don't think that this could just end with Big Ten Player of the Year. Like, I think that he could be out there in New York for a Heisman ceremony. Not necessarily saying he wins it, but I think he could be there at the ceremony.
All right.
Brandon, Player of the Year.
So, Dylan Gabriel's a good answer. To me, Dylan Gabriel he's getting a lot of Heisman buzz, and he is a good quarterback. But I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I think he's pretty good. I think he's pretty damn good. And there's an assumption that he's going to go to Oregon and be what Bo Nix was. And maybe he is. Maybe he is. But I just think he's pretty good. That's all I think about him. I don't think he's this guy. I'm going to be honest. I was thinking about TreVeyon Henderson a lot. I was thinking about TreVeyon Henderson because I don't like – Judkins is coming in, and he's got all the hype. Judkins wasn't all that good last year. He just wasn't. And Ole Miss is a really good team. His yards per carry went way down. I thought Bentley for them was their better running back last year. And I think Judkins is a big name for it because he's a transfer. I love TreVeyon Henderson. But I guess I'm going to go against everything I believe in. I'm not going to take Drew Aller, even though I want to, because God damn it, how funny would that be?
Do it.
But
do it.
No.
Do it.
I'm going to take Will Howard. And I'll tell you why. Because the standard's different. The standard for him isn't come in and throw for 4,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. It's come in, beat Michigan, come in, run the offense. You got two good running backs that might cancel each other out. Maybe one runs for 1,300, one runs for 1,100, and one of them doesn't run for 2,000. Like, you got weapons, but you don't have Marvin Harrison to take the shine away from the quarterback. If I can get a 12-0 season or an 11-1 season out of Will Howard and they win the conference, I'm not sure how he's not the player of the year. So I'm banking on this kind of being a team award. I don't think he's the best quarterback in the conference, but the best quarterbacks in the conference to me play for teams that aren't going to be in the mix for this award. So I got Will Howard player of the year in the Big Ten, which is going to give away my championship pick as it probably should have already. So Kayce Smith, actually Blutman's the only one. I don't know where he's going to go with this.
I'm about to say Blutman's the only wild card here.
I'm going to start with Blutman. All right, Blutman, I want your conference championship game matchup and your champion.
It's so basic. I've got Ohio State there, but I've got Oregon there as well. And when it comes down to it, I'm taking the better coach team, rooted in substance. I'm taking Oregon to win the Big Ten championship. I think a lot more people are going to be talking a whole lot higher about Evan Stewart this year as one of the most gifted players in the country. And I just can't wait to see that. And Big Ev's hands up.
So is Brandon's. Both of their hands have been up.
I think we both have the same question. I'll allow Big Ev to ask it.
What Liam, what is Dan Lanning done to say that definitively he's the better head coach than Ryan Day?
The future.
Is Ryan Day not recruiting at a very, 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 very high level as well?
I don't care about that. The future that shows that Oregon is going to beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship.
You mean you bet the future?
Yeah, I'm betting on the future of Dan Lanning to be at the end of this year, be known as the better coach than Ryan Day.
So you have no answer to that question.
Correct, because it's not true yet, but it will be in 3 months.
Oh, well, that's okay.
I'm good with that. I can live with that.
All right.
I was going to watch him work his way out of that. I knew he would. Liam was going to work his way out of that question, no doubt in my mind.
So you have Oregon versus Ohio State, with Oregon being the champion.
Yeah, and I think that Evan Stewart is a true threat to win the Biletnikoff as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that Dylan Gabriel, I agree with you. I think he's good. I don't think he's elite by any means. The good thing for him is he gets to play in Will Stein's offense, and playing quarterback in Will Stein's offense comes very easy. Think about UTSA and the receivers that they had and what Frank Harris was able to do and just
Mhm.
carve, we got another lefty in there for Will Stein. Can't wait to see it. I love their offensive line. The defense is nice. Jordan Burge is going to be talked about a lot. How about Kobe Savage, Brandon Johnson, Bar Muhammad, all transfers in the secondary? It's a very good team. Ohio State's a very good team as well. I can't wait to watch that conference championship game and maybe a rematch in the playoffs.
Kayce, go ahead with yours.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Ohio State, Oregon. I have Oregon winning. I do think that Dylan Gabriel is a better quarterback. I understand that we have to. I'm not going to do what Liam just did and say in the future, but I do think that he is a better quarterback. What we've seen, I've still very much questioned that move at Ohio State. But when you look at both of these rosters, they're obviously both super stacked. Ryan Day and Dan Lanning did a ton in the portal, ton in recruiting. But to me, what surrounds Dylan Gabriel with like you said, Evan Stewart, which I'm sad A&M lost him, but you've got Tez Johnson, you've got Noah Whittingham and Jordan James at running back, and then you've got an offensive line that was pretty like one of the best in the country. I think there's like 3 returners. That offense to me is going to be such a problem. And then you look at what he brought in the portal on defense. I think that they are just going to absolutely like hit the ground running in the Big Ten. And when it comes down to looking at these two rosters, and as chalky as it may be, I'm just going to put more stock into Dylan Gabriel than I am into Will Howard. And everything else to me is just so stacked on both teams. So that to me is why I'm taking it. I absolutely think Dylan Gabriel is going to be in New York. It wouldn't surprise me if he won in New York. And I think Oregon's going to win. I do think we're going to see them play multiple times. That's another example. We could see them play 3 times again, which is wild to think without divisions.
All right, Big Ev, go ahead and tell us your very predictable answer.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree with their title matchups. I do think Oregon is definitely the team that's going to be there with Ohio State. But I think the difference for Ohio State will be the defense. I think the defense is going to be too strong, too elite. And I think we're forgetting this Oregon team that I mean, let's remember they lost to Washington last year, then lost to them again as almost double-digit favorites. I think we're giving Dan Lanning a lot of credit here, and he's a great coach, but I think we're just crowning him, and I don't really understand why. He hasn't done anything to deserve that while we're just poo-pooing Ryan Day. Yeah, I think Ohio State beats Oregon. I think the defense is the difference.
Brandon?
So do I want to just have the graphic have the same championship matchup, or do I want to pull the trigger?
Do you have an answer that you believe in to pull the trigger?
I know what he wants to do. I
know what he wants to do too.
Yeah.
Do it. Just do it.
I got Ohio State winning the Big Ten when they're able to survive and beat the Penn State Nittany Lions in the Big Ten championship game. Oregon's a good team. Penn State, by the way, gets more shit for being 10-2 and losing to Ohio State, Michigan every year than any program you can imagine. They're pretty goddamn good, and they're pretty goddamn good every year. But because they're not way up here, well, guess what? Last year, both times Oregon got a chance at Washington, they fucking blew it. They got the same we can't win the big one problem that Penn State has, but they don't get reminded of it over and over and over and over like Penn State does. Oregon, Penn State, very similar teams. They just are. Now, this year, talent-wise, Oregon looks like they're pretty goddamn good. Penn State's talent's really fucking good, too. I got Ohio State beating Penn State. That doesn't matter. Ohio State's winning the Big Ten. Ohio State is winning the Big Ten, and I haven't decided if they're winning the national title yet, but it's between them and Georgia because those are the 2 best teams in the country. Ohio State wins the Big Ten and goes on, but Ohio State over Penn State simply because I want the graphic to look snazzy.
And you do deep down believe in Drew Aller.
I'm not going to stop believing in Penn State because
I know you should.
People act like, you thought Drew Aller was good last year. You look at the numbers. He was good last year. He just wasn't good when they played Ohio State and Michigan, and that's fine. That is fine. But I think he's going into his junior year now. Like, can a guy get better from year to year without transferring? Yeah, that actually still happens.
So I know we're going to do.
Oh yeah, I still like Drew Aller a lot. I still think he could be an NFL quarterback. I think people have grossly overreacted to.
Agreed.
But like Penn State has not done any favors in the last 2 years either. It's
no, they
both
have.
sides of the puzzle.
I know we're going to do like a whole like college football playoff preview episode. We're going to name our national title and all that. But I was thinking about this the other night. Like, there's probably a couple other teams, but if you look at who benefits the most from the 12-team playoff, like when I'm talking about specific teams in the country, Penn State is absolutely at the top of that list. Like they are one of the teams in the country that benefits more than anybody else, because when you're absolutely right, they lose to Ohio State, they lose to Michigan, they don't even have to play both of them this year. But if there was a 12-team playoff, they would have been in every single time. And now James Franklin has the opportunity to get that like narrative off his back of like, okay, you can't win the big one in the regular season, fine, but now you're in a 12-team playoff, prove that you can actually win a big game, because they couldn't do it because they could never make it to that spot.
Yep. All right, that's the Big Ten. We'll dive into the other monster conference on Thursday when we get in the SEC, and y'all better bring your fucking boxing gloves.
Oh, are we fighting?
We might. We might fucking fight, because I feel like the Big Ten to me, a lot of talent coming in, not a whole lot of variance and question marks. Like the
agree.
teams that are really good are really fucking good. The teams that are going to be in the middle are going to be in the middle. Teams at the bottom are going to be fighting out for the bottom. The SEC,
especially now without divisions. Oh,
there's like 8 teams. There's like 8 teams in the SEC that think they're going to be really fucking good this year, and that ain't there's not enough oxygen to support everybody. It's going to be a goddamn war in the SEC this year.
And I think, and on this show too, I have a feeling.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Yes, Blutman?
If you still want to talk about like Minnesota.
Did you have a Blutman minute about Minnesota, or did
no,
you?
I just have a lot of leftover notes that won't be used, which is okay. But
Blutman, give me 30 seconds on Minnesota.
On Minnesota, oh man, Brandon, thank you for asking. How about Ariante Ursary, who is arguably the best offensive lineman in the country? He's dominant and he's mobile. He's going to be a potential first-round pick. He moves people out of the way with ease. He's a big reason why the Gophers' ground game is so good. Speaking of ground game, Darius Taylor and C.A. Bangura at running back. Holy moly. But how about the fact they also have Marcus Major and Jordan Newman and Fame is your boy. Fame is your boy. True freshman. Look out for that guy. There's so much more I could talk about with our teams, but I won't.
All right. That's 23 seconds. Give me 30 seconds on Maryland, Blutman. Go.
I'm not that passionate about Maryland, but
all right, I'll stop you there. Give me 30 seconds.
I'm looking forward to DeJuan Williams to tote the rock. True freshman running back.
30 seconds on Michigan State. Go.
Well, Ian Childs is the truth. You already know that with me, so I'm not going to talk about him. I'll talk about Jack Velling, though. Tight end to monitor at 6'5", 244. I like him a lot. I think he's going to be an NFL guy. Jonathan Smith likes him a lot, too. He brought him over from Oregon State. He's got a chance to be one of the best tight ends in the country, said Jonathan Smith. He's got 2 strong years of production under his belt. Good hands, good separation. I like him a lot.
And time. 30 seconds on Northwestern.
Really? You want to wait?
All right, 30 seconds.
He's pretty cool.
30 seconds on Illinois.
On Illinois, I like Matthew Bailey a lot at safety, but he missed like all 2023 due to injury. He only played 1 game. Matthew Bailey was a star as a true freshman in 2022. He had 3 interceptions. I think you're going to hear about Matthew Bailey a lot on a fairly blah Illinois team. I think he makes his teammates better. He's a playmaking pest is what I label him as. He's an NFL guy for sure. And Zachary Franklin.
And
Zachary Franklin is reuniting with his offense coordinator, Lenny.
Time. All right. That's the Big Ten. We'll be back with the SEC on Thursday. That's Unnecessary Roughness.